This is quitting addiction. In the last episode, we looked at infertility as one of the consequences of substance abuse. If you're just joining this podcast for the first time, I recommend you go back to previous episodes so you can follow up on the discussion. In today's episode, we will be looking at injury as one of the consequences of substance abuse. Let us define injury. Any physical damage to the body caused by violence or accident or fracture can be termed injury. And we have two types of injury, which is the acute injury that happens suddenly and chronic injury, which happens over a long period of time, gradually, due to repetitive overuse of a substance that is harmful to health. Acute injury happens suddenly. In other words, an acute injury can happen anywhere, anytime, without any prior warning. And there goes the saying that says, accidents ring no bell. For instance, driving under the influence of alcohol can lead to accidents on the road, which happen suddenly, in a split second. So a person who is intoxicated with alcohol and gets behind the wheel is not in his right senses and is not properly coordinated enough to drive a vehicle. So when he does so, he is prone to having an accident. You can also see another example of acute injury that occurs from falls. A person who is under the influence of a certain substance can fall from a height due to lack of coordination, and these falls can lead to death. Another example can be burns. Sometimes a person can take a substance, and due to the intoxication of that substance, he falls into the fire, or falls into hot oil, or falls into something that damages his physical body. You can also look at alcohol poisoning, which may lead to sudden organ failure. Sometimes you see a person who has taken or ingested his system with so much alcohol that he passes out all of a sudden and is unable to be revived. Some people even kick the bucket at that point. Now, let us go further to chronic injuries. Chronic injuries due to substance abuse are very dangerous to health. This is because they are imperceptible. You don't see it coming. You can still be moving around, carrying out your normal daily activities, but there is consistent damage going on in your system as a result of your indulgence in these substances on a daily basis. And you can't see it because it's inside, it's internal, but it's going on. It's a gradual, imperceptible damage over time. And these substances are targeted at a particular organ or one or more organs in the body. For instance, the liver is a very important organ in the body. Your liver is responsible for removing toxic substances from the blood. Your liver is equally responsible for storing vitamins. It's responsible for blood clotting. Blood clotting is when a person has an injury and in a space of 5 minutes or 6 minutes, you realize that the point at which you have that injury has been sealed, and that stops blood from further leaking out of the body. And at the end, the injury begins to heal because that has blocked external factors from going into the body, like infections and all of that. So the liver is responsible for that. It is called blood clotting. And your liver also stores energy and fights infection. That means it boosts your immunity. So you can be in a place where there is infection in the air, or somebody is carrying a disease that is airborne. Your system should be able to resist that disease by boosting your immune system. So it is not everything that flies in the atmosphere that you catch. you have an immunity that is inbuilt, and the liver is responsible for that. So when your liver is damaged or affected due to substance abuse, you can imagine the extent of damage such a person will face in life. And what are these substances that damage the liver? The major substance that damages the liver is alcohol. Alcohol damages the liver and causes liver failure or liver cirrhosis. So when your liver is damaged, what are the consequences? All the toxic substances that are in your body, they don't have a way out. The liver that used to excrete them through urination can no longer function. So toxins and poisonous substances begin to build up in your body over time, and that shortens your lifespan. You can no longer store vitamins. You have an injury that will bleed and bleed and bleed, and the blood is not stopping, because the ability for that blood to clot, to prevent blood loss, is no longer there. The liver can no longer perform that function. And then your immunity is also reduced. So any little disease that you come in contact with will most likely bring you down in health. Another organ that can be affected or damaged by substance abuse are your lungs. Injury to the lungs can cause severe health challenges. Now, your lungs are responsible for circulating oxygen all over your body. All the cells in your body cannot function without the presence of oxygen. Oxygen is the fuel that runs the body, and your lungs are responsible for extracting this oxygen from the atmosphere into your system. When the cells use up this oxygen, they also need to remove waste products, which comes out as carbon dioxide. So your lungs are responsible for taking in oxygen and taking out carbon dioxide. So when you have issues with your lungs as a result of substance abuse, you are unable to function properly. Your cells now have shortage of oxygen. All the systems in the body begin to shut down one after the other. And what is the major substance that affects the lungs? It is smoking cigarettes, smoking cannabis, smoking marijuana. Anything that you have to light up and smoke into your system will damage your lungs over a period of time. Remember, we are talking about chronic injuries. So these are imperceptible. It doesn't happen one day. The first day you carry a stick of cigarette to smoke is not the day your lungs shut down. Your lungs usually will bear with you for a period of time, hoping that you will stop this bad habit, because at some point they can no longer hold those toxic substances you are giving them on a daily basis. And so what do? They break down. Let me relate it to everyday life issues so that you can further understand. If you own an automobile or a generator, you are aware that the only thing you should put in your fuel tank is fuel. If it is a diesel car, the only thing you should put in that car, in the tank, is diesel. When you open your engine, there are certain places where you need to top some certain oils. Sometimes it is even written on the lid, on the cover of that chamber, put only this oil in this chamber. So when you carry engine oil and put in your fuel tank, when you put diesel in a car that is powered by fuel, that car is going to break down. You shorten the lifespan of that car, and you will spend so much money to recover that car. Sometimes the damage that may be caused to that car might be irreversible, and you see that the car will be parked for a long time and will be sold as scrap. Why? Because you are using the wrong fluid in the wrong chamber. So now relate this to your system. When you decide to take in toxic substances and smoke carbon as opposed to the required oxygen, the result is inevitable. Your system over time will break down. Another organ which I would like us to consider that can suffer injury as a result of substance abuse is the heart. The cardiovascular system is powered by the heart. Many of you are going to learn a lot from the medical perspective, even though you're not medically inclined. This channel is going to teach you a lot about your body and your system, which you may not have opportunity to learn in the classroom as a result of the course you are studying in school. And if you didn't have the opportunity to go to school, this is a good place to learn about the human body, so that you can take care of yourself and live a longer and a healthier life. So the heart is responsible for pumping blood all over the body. One of the substances that cause injury to your heart is cocaine, meth, and other drugs that people abuse. There are a lot of drugs, sleeping pills, codeine. All these substances that people abuse over a long period of time move into the heart and limit its ability to pump blood. So you see, over a long period of time, such a person would develop a disease called heart failure or heart attack. So somebody will just be moving around, all of a sudden he just falls to the ground, because once your heart stops pumping blood, even if it is for 30 seconds, your system begins to shut down, because all the organs in the body require blood to function. This is why right from the day you were born up to the day you leave the earth, your heart must not stop pumping blood. The day your heart stops beating, your minutes are numbered. And if something is not done to resuscitate you immediately, you are going. One other organ that is affected adversely by substance abuse is the brain. This is a very serious one as well, because your brain is responsible for your personality, who you are, everything you know, everything you have learned, all your experiences in life, everything that makes you who you are today is as a result of all the information that your brain has gathered and stored over the years. So when anything happens to your brain, such a person can be said to have mental health disorders. What this means is the difference between you and a madman on the road eating from the dustbin is that your brain is still intact. Your mental health is still okay. So substances like marijuana, cannabis, and all these other things people smoke, weed, they have a potent effect on your brain. They have a way of damaging your brain cells. And so such a person will develop brain injury or mental health disorder, which we might otherwise call madness. So you might see some certain people, as a result of substance abuse, they begin to misbehave. Such a person begins to move around on the road, begins to talk to himself, becomes paranoid, becomes anxious. Sometimes suicidal thoughts begin to come to your head. You want to take your life because you are under the influence of a certain substance. That changes the way you see the world. Otherwise, how do you explain why a person will leave the comfort of his home and will go to the streets moving stark naked, eating from the dustbin? He has a mental health disorder. There are cases where this disorder can come from other sources. It might come from, a family history. Probably there is a history of mental disorder in the family. It can be genetic. Yes, it can be a medical condition. Other things may cause mental disorder, like accidents or a blow to the head. But let it not be that you have a mental disorder or a mental breakdown because you have been indulging in substance abuse. That is what we are addressing today, and not the other reasons for that condition, but the fact that you are going through this issue on account of substance abuse is where the problem is. And finally, the list is long, but I'm going to cut it short. Infections. Let me tell you a story. I was discussing with a friend some time ago, and I got to hear some information that shook me. There are certain people who inject themselves with some certain drugs directly into their bloodstream just so they can get high. In order for you to carry out that evil act, you need a syringe. You need an injection to pump that substance into your system. Now, one of the greatest issues with addiction is that you lose the ability to reason well. And because these syringes, they are quite expensive. So those who indulge in this act begin to share this syringe. So the first person injects himself and hands over the syringe to the next person. He also injects himself and hands it over to the next person. What do you think is going to happen? You are going to share infections like HIV. Because HIV is in the blood. So when you expose that needle to a person that is suffering from that disease, and the next person takes it and also injects it into his system, you are sharing that disease. That is another way people contract HIV and other infections in their system. And you cannot help yourself because you need somebody to help you. You need someone to bring you out of that addiction. And this is why Quitting Addictions has come out today to raise awareness and sensitize the public. So look at yourself. If you are going through any of these addictions, you are cutting your lifespan short and you need to quit today. Before we end today's episode, there are other kinds of injuries which may not affect the user of that substance directly, but can affect other people around him. These are called indirect injuries. For instance, a person who is under the influence of a substance can easily molest somebody around him. So you see issues like domestic violence. A man who goes out and drinks so much alcohol can come home and get his wife seriously beaten. He can come home and beat up the children. We have heard stories of men who under the influence of alcohol took up a gun and shot down the wife or shut down the child, or take up a sharp object and inflict injury or harm to the next person. This is not normal behavior. He is doing this under the influence of a certain drug or substance. Another issue is getting into a vehicle under the influence of a certain substance, maybe alcohol, and driving recklessly on the road. You may not end your life when you get into an accident, but you might hit someone else on the road and end the life of that person. You can bring grief and pain and sorrow to other families. There are many drunk drivers that have driven trucks into family houses and a complete family was wiped out. There are people who have taken cars under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and while driving, they just clear people on the road. This is why driving under the influence of alcohol or any substance is prohibited, and it is a crime in many developed worlds. If you are caught behind the steering under the influence of a drug, you are sent to prison. Finally, one of the bodily harm a person might cause on himself is malnutrition, because when you begin to take these substances on a daily basis, you neglect your self-care. You no longer take care of yourself the way you should. You no longer eat healthy. So you see a person who is addicted to drugs, a person who is addicted to certain substances, they always look very haggard. They look lean. For instance, people who indulge in taking ice, one of the things it does to you is that it takes sleep away from your eyes. It kills your appetite. So you can be awake for 1 week without sleeping. What do you think that will do to the body? Because every machine needs to rest at some point if that machine must last long. Now imagine you buying a generator and you are running that generator for 1 week straight without turning it off. When the fuel is about to finish, you top up without turning it off. It's about to finish, you top up. It's about to finish, you top up. What do you think will happen to that generator? as compared to your neighbor who turns off his generator once in every 10 hours, allows it to rest before turning it on again. Which person's generator will break down first? You know the answer. So relate that to your health. When our youths are taking ice on a daily basis, sometimes I go on social media and I see people advertising these products. I see youths, they call it catching cruise. They are taking all these things and they are showing the world that we are taking it. You don't have to come out to encourage other people to indulge in this suicidal journey. So what is the solution, you might ask? Now we are aware that we have a problem. What is the solution? Unfortunately, some damages or some injuries that are caused by substance abuse are irreversible. That is the first problem. You might get to a point where even when you quit, you have caused certain damages that are irreversible and your lifespan has been cut short. For instance, when your lungs have, taken in so much smoke for a long period of time and they have begun to change color. If you can look at the screen, you see the picture of a healthy lungs and the picture of the lungs of a smoker. But before you get to this point where your lungs are 90% damaged, if you quit over time, for a period of 6 months to 1 year to 2 years to 3 years, staying clean of the drugs, your body naturally begins to heal itself. The same way you have an injury on your skin and after 6 months, you only see a little scar. That injury is not as fresh as the first day it happened or the first week it happened. The body heals. And so when you quit that addiction today, you give yourself another chance at life. So quitting addiction today is the first step to living a healthy life tomorrow. In the last episode, we talked about infertility and the consequences of infertility on your home. Many marriages have been destroyed. Many men have divorced their wives because of their inability to give them a child. Yes, we might have other cases and other issues responsible for infertility. But let it not be that your own barrenness or your own sterile nature is as a result of your previous bad lifestyle, which is indulging in substance abuse. So the first step to avoiding injury to your health and to your body is quitting today. You may not be able to help yourself, but those who have experience in this field can help you out. So we can help ourselves live a healthier life and rid our environment, rid our society of drug abuse. If you have listened up to this point, you're a good listener, and I must commend you. If you have any experience you would like to share concerning any of the issues we have raised today, kindly do so in the comment section. You can send me a DM if you need to speak to someone, and we'll reach out to you. Like this video, share it among your friends because someone needs to hear this. And don't forget to follow Quitting Addictions to stay updated with subsequent episodes. I remain your presenter, BEN. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.